Let's check in with David Stokes, who is a Show Me Institute policy analyst and, dare I say, a friend of the show. Good morning, David Stokes.
Good morning, McGraw. Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning.
This past week, this hit the news that they're $11 million short, or the bids are coming in way over budget for the Loop Trolley. I actually thought they were already breaking ground on that stuff.
They were close to. I mean, a lot of people are thinking, well, this is done, this is set, and then every time you get to that point, there sort of becomes another hurdle that they have to overcome.
Right.
And this is the latest one that the bids came in. And $11 million is a significant percentage. That's about 25% over the proposal. So how are they going to fund that now? Because the federal government is already angry at the project due to other reporting and other issues that they've had.
They're not angry with Joe Edwards, are they? Because I'll tell the federal government a thing or two if they're mad at my buddy Joe Edwards.
Well, it may come to that, McGraw. You may be getting a phone call here from the Loop backers, putting you on a flight to D.C.
So first of all, how can they be that over budget? And this late in the game, these sort of estimates are coming in this late, this high?
Well, as for the specifics of this project, an engineer would have to explain, or you'd have to get these bids.
Right.
Let me speak generally, that oftentimes there's a tremendous consistency for these large public works projects coming in over budget. So much, in fact, that it can't possibly be random odds, because they never come in under projections or under budget.
Highway 40 came in under budget.
They came in. The projection case came in, I think, on budget or maybe slightly under.
All right, well, that's good. That's what
on
you want.
On budget is great.
A rarity.
But too often, these proposals are underbid to start with because they have to be sold to the public. And if the public knew the true cost of these projects,
right,
it'd be less likely to get them passed. So there's a political reasoning behind them to undersell how much they really are, to get it approved, to get it passed, to get the taxes to pay for a part of it passed. And then a year or two later, when it comes in a little over budget, you say, well, we'll just have to make it up somehow. Look at the Family Court Center in Clayton. A year ago, the bids came in on that, and it was 25 to 30 million over budget. That all of a sudden St. Louis County was scrambling on how to fund that, and that was another thing that the county council and the county executive were fighting over last year.
Right. So you're saying this is a concentrated effort to sort of, generally speaking, to sort of ram it through or to make it look better, and when you're so far down the road, you can't turn back. So they got to scramble to find the money.
Exactly, and there are studies out there that you can find that just show that you measure all these large-scale public works and how, yes, like I-6440, some come in on budget, or in that case, maybe even a little bit under budget. But most of them, there's such a consistency to coming in over bid and over budget that, you know what, it's not random chance.
Right.
This is what you have to do to get them passed in the first place.
Well, I do know, and I've talked to developers about this, and that is when you're talking about a TIF, you talk about how it's not underbid, it's overbid. In other words, it will never work unless we get this TIF, and it's going to take 20 years for us to pay off the TIF. Well, they pay it off in 2.5 years because they so underestimated the amount of people who will shop there. So if the TIF is paid off in 3.5 or 4 years, why did you need the TIF in the first place if it was so successful so early?
A great example.
Yeah.
Right. In the case of the TIF, you want the opposite.
You want the opposite.
You want to say, we need all this money so you can increase it and claim and then get as many property tax and sales taxes as possible. That's why you layer these sales taxes so often with TIFs, where you don't just have the TIF, you have the Community Improvement District or the Transportation Development District on top of the TIF to increase the sales tax there so that you can get the public to pay for as much of the project as possible.
All right. Now, what's this other thing here? Is this they want a north-south metro link down south?
They do. And for all these details, I have to recommend, we've got some great blog posts up at showmedaily.org by my colleague Joe Miller, who really covers transportation and infrastructure for the Show Me Institute. We're moving ahead again on Metrolink expansion. In speaking of projects that came in way overestimate and overbid.
Well, that not only was it over budget, then they sued and lost, and then sued again and lost again. Then they had to pay for everyone's lawyers.
Right, which that's not cheap. So now they want to do the next round of it, which is a north-south sort of through St. Louis City, and of course, just enough into St. Louis County at the top and bottom that they'll have St. Louis County pay for it.
Right.
They can't make it only in St. Louis City. So they have to put at least a bid in the county. And the good part about this is that this is at least going to attempt to serve people who use public transportation instead of spending hundreds of millions to put light rail out to people who will never use it under the guise of trying to change the way everybody lives.
Right.
If you put it a north-south route in St. Louis City, yes, those are the people who use public transportation. That's whom we should be providing public transportation for. But you know what? Bus rapid transit and an improved bus system can accomplish that for an incomparable amount of money. You're talking millions of dollars, a couple million instead of hundreds of millions for these proposals. And I just recommend what Joe Miller has got up at Show Me Daily to really put the numbers to it.
That's also that they recently, didn't MoDOT just recently put a halt to that, for lack of a better word, finishing off the 170 to South County, right? You know where it stops here, right at the Target? And they want that sort of cross-county connection in South County, and they were going through, what would that be, Brentwood or Hanley or whatever. They just sort of put that off to the side for whatever reason.
They did. Then that was dead. That was sort of like putting the final nail in the vampire's coffin there. And that was dead. That was the last serious attempt at bringing I-170 further south into South County.
Right.
Died in the mid-'90s. At this point, the land acquisition costs alone are enough to kill that idea. Brentwood and Richmond Heights. I mean, I can turn to my right here and we can see where it would go through. I mean, the land acquisition, although that's a very prosperous area now with tremendous retail, valuable homes. I mean, that would cost a fortune for, again, a very, I think, minor transportation benefit.
Now, I have been told that the reason why 170 stops right there at Target is because Dick Gephardt said it goes no further.
I would completely believe that.
He was the guy in the room.
Very powerful force back at the time.
He was the guy in the room and said, "That's it. That's enough. My district doesn't want it," and so that's sort of why it ends. Just sort of ends abruptly in Midtown, right? I mean, it should go all the way to 55 at some way.
Well, it's been referred to as the only interstate highway in America that ends in a Target parking lot, which is both funny and also completely true.
Yeah, and very sad, but good for Target.
But also, I do agree with the decision that was again reached 20 years ago, right, and was finalized that it's dead. I don't think it should be expanded further south.
No.
I think the cost to that outweigh the benefits. We have Metrolink to do that. If we want to improve the connection between South County and Mid County, we've written about the South County connector. I think is an excellent idea, and I think it should be paid, at least in part, through tolling. We can bring tolling to the St. Louis area. You can expand and widen Hanley and Laclede Station Road, along with Marshall and River de Pere, build that South County connector to improve that connection. You don't need to take I-70 any further south.
I got a minute here. What are your thoughts as you sit and watch this Rams conversation going on about building a new stadium for them?
Well, I went to the game yesterday. Took my 5-year-old son Ryan. We had a blast.
Yes.
It was sort of not surprised, because I almost amazed to see all the orange in the stadium for the Bronco fans who travel here, which is great. They're buying hotel rooms. They're visiting St. Louis.
Sure.
That's terrific. Look, I love the Rams. I went yesterday. I'm going to the Raiders in a couple weeks. It's unfortunate that we're still engaged, though, in a conversation where the public is going to be expected to potentially build a new stadium. I want the Rams to stay in St. Louis desperately badly. I really want the team to stay here. I am a football fan. And I'm not, and I don't want to be not one penny. Well, there may be a role for infrastructure changes, transportation, but the idea that the public would be again asked to spend hundreds of millions more, I think it's inappropriate. I think it's not a proper use of government or taxpayer funds.
It'd be really interesting to watch how all this shakes out, because when it comes right down to it, somebody wants a new stadium, and he's a billionaire, and billionaires get what they want usually, whether they get it here in St. Louis or in L.A. or on the moon. They usually get what they want. So we'll see how it all shakes out. David Stokes, when can we see you? When can we read you?
We've got a lot of good information up on the Loop Trolley and on Metrolink generally at showmeinstitute.org, and up a couple recent blog posts at showmedaily.org.
Did you have popcorn at the game yesterday?
No, we went to this perturbed us. We got in line at one of the big concessions. They've got everything showing, so we get up there and like, we don't sell anything here but beer and pizza. Like, you have a pretzel thing right there, and I am admittedly noticing that it's empty right now. But from a distance, I saw a pretzel thing. My son wants a pretzel, so we had to buy some giant like $8 piece of pizza, which he, to my surprise, mostly ate. So it was spent. And then the beer I bought was skunky, and that was infuriating.
You got to call out whoever's in charge of the food at the Dome. It's terrible. I mean, the hot dogs are terrible. I was at a game, and it was the first quarter, and I bought a bottomless soda. And so I finished it middle of the first quarter. I run down. I'm like, can I get some Diet Dr. Pepper? We're out. I was like, it's the middle of the first quarter. How can you be out already? The popcorn's terrible. The hot dogs are terrible. People are nice, but I mean, the food is just well below what you get at the Scott Trade Center or at Busch Stadium.
And there's nothing in this line where I'm going up to this concession that says it's only pizza.
Right.
Like, you don't find that out till you go stand up there and say, I'd like this, I'd like this.
Yeah.
I want a hot dog.
I mean,
like,
no,
we got pizza and that's it.
I'm a popcorn connoisseur, and that popcorn at the Dome is just, it's like it's trucked in from all the other games after they didn't eat it. It's bad. All right, David Stokes, we're done.
Thanks, McGraw. Thanks, Kelly.
You got to have a good week. We'll talk a little Mizzou football. How about our Tigers? It was a big win over the weekend. We'll talk to the voice of the Tigers. He was there, 8:48 here, Big 550.